Hey everybody, it's Michelle Hill with your legacy builder with Winning Proof, and I am here for another edition of Winning Proof Unscripted. And today I have the privilege of having Randy Brown with me, and I'm going to have to, in order to introduce Randy, I am just going to read from the About the Author section of his book so I get all these titles right. So, for nearly 20 years, Randy Brown worked with the country's finest coaches, including Basketball Hall of Famer Lute Olson. Randy reached the highest level in men's college basketball, and his NCAA Division I experience includes 5 regular season championships, 2 postseason tournament championships, 5 NCAA tournaments, back-to-back Big 12 titles, and a 2000 Elite 8. 4 of his Arizona players have captured a total of 13 NBA championships as players and coaches. His stops include the University of Arizona, Marquette University, Iowa State University, Miami of Ohio, University of North Dakota, Drake University, and Stetson. 10 NBA players have benefited from his coaching expertise, including Steve Kerr, current Golden State Warriors head coach, and Sean Elliott, National Player of the Year 1988. And just a little bit more. I want to really give you a really good introduction here. Randy's rise in the coaching world was matched by his dramatic plunge into the depths of depression after 2 of his children's deaths, prison, and a career lost forever. But Randy is not one to stay down when life's adversities push him against the ropes. He has since created an extensive worldwide coach mentoring program, Elite Coach Mentoring. Over 100 coaches have reached their coaching goals working with Randy. The Iowa Player Development Academy, located in central Iowa, focuses on teaching players to play the right way. I had to do that, and here is Randy's book, Rebound Forward. And welcome, Randy.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And, you know, as you mentioned in the book, you have to take, you have to take credit yourself because I'll tell you, I don't think that, well, the book would not have been written without you. And I didn't know you. We met on LinkedIn. And
That's right.
Anybody out there that's thinking about working with Michelle, you got to be ready because, I mean, well, I didn't know her, and she heard my story, and she put it on me. I'm telling you, she challenged me. I'll never forget getting off that call. I'm like, I have no choice. I have to write this book. Michelle said so. So, so that's kind of our relationship as we get started here. But you were of tremendous help to me just to sort of piece together where things belonged and do this and write about this more and things. And of course, you came in unbelievably to my aid when I tried to write the 2 chapters about my girls. But we'll always look at that book fondly and know that you had a big part of it.
Well, thank you so much. It was really an experience, and I remember some of our calls, and you know, you're teary-eyed, and I don't get teary-eyed all that often, but we were both on the freeconferencecall.com call, and we were both, tearing up as you told your story. So it really touched me, and I had that experience, working on it. So, let's dive in and kind of start.
Absolutely.
And see a little bit more about who you are. So tell us a little bit about your basketball coaching career first.
I was a little guy about 5 years old, as I remember, and I was at a high school basketball practice. We knew the family of the head coach, and we would go in there, and I go to practice. I'll just never forget. It just grabbed me, and I didn't know when I was 5 I wanted to be a coach, but I did know that I learned that basketball is a pretty cool little thing. You bounce this ball, put it in the basket, and boy, I was smitten. And later on, it did occur to me that you can make a career out of coaching basketball, not playing, but coaching the game. And so I always give credit to that little 5-year-old who just somehow wasn't running around that day and not paying attention like the other kids there. I was watching and listening, and it's kind of crazy at that age, but I really remember that this game is really special, and this could be a part of what I end up doing. Now, I never had to figure out what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to coach. And so my career was just unbelievably touched by my mentor, Lute Olson, who passed a couple days ago. And Coach taught me how to be a coach. He didn't just hire me and let me go. Anytime you get an opportunity to work for a Naismith Hall of Fame basketball coach, you are being mentored by the best of the best in the world. And how I ever was lucky enough to go from a high school JV coach to a graduate assistant at Tucson, Arizona, and work for a guy like Lute Olson, I don't know. But I didn't question it, because I was in a place that and the assistants he had hired, just the best of the best, like I say. So, my career was really like a leapfrog. I would go a year and then 2 years and then 2 years and then a year. And it was all done because when I was 22, I made 3 goals for myself. I told myself that I wanted to become a college basketball assistant coach. I wanted to become an NCAA Division I head coach, which is almost like saying I'm going to win the lotto at that point. And then I even went further and said, I want to coach in the Final Four. Now, at 22, I had no idea really what I was doing when I picked those goals, but I knew that coaching was ahead for me, and that's what my passion was. And I thought, what the heck, let's go for it. And I thought if I could reach that first goal, it would be fantastic. And I was able to. And man, I fell in love with somebody told me once that you could be a college basketball coach and actually pay you for it. And you do nothing but basketball all day. I'm like, where's this line start? Because I'm getting in it. And you couldn't keep me out of the office. I was just kid in the candy store for my entire 20-year career. About 35, really, if you count 35 or 37, if you count my mentoring and my high school coaching, but 20 in Division I basketball. And so I made a lot of jumps because my second goal was I want to become a college head coach. And you have to make the right moves to get the right experience with the right people. I learned networking, what I consider networking, from an early age in my career. And I used it every single day. And I met some of the greatest people who helped me become a Division I head basketball coach. And that was just unbelievable. Then I actually returned to Iowa with my family, and after losing this great head basketball coaching position that I dreamt of for so long, ironically, and we moved back to Iowa, and I went to Iowa State and finished my career there, and we had tremendous success, and it put us into the 2000 Elite Eight. And the winner of the Elite Eight game, and we happened to play Michigan State that day, goes to the Final Four. So this is the cherry on top for me. We were, it's just hard to even think about that game. We were so close. And I just knew it was going to happen because I set a goal at 22. I was going to coach in the Final Four. It was really weird, and we didn't. We lost in a really close game, but I got at least that far, and just indebted to all the great mentors and leaders I had that helped me get that far. But I felt very good, certainly about my career. But my career came to a screeching halt when some of my behaviors in dealing with some of the issues that were going on in my life forced me to resign from my position. A really difficult thing for me to do, because this is the 5-year-old kid that just wanted to do this. And I had a lot of basketball left in me. And I had to say no and leave behind the career that I love the most. So it had a really bitter end to it, but I certainly have wonderful, wonderful feelings about being a college coach.
Yeah, and absolutely. Who gets to do exactly what they say they're going to do as a child? Now, I have that distinction is that when people ask me too, they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? A writer.
Right.
So I consider that a rarity because not that many
It
people have a lot of attorneys leading dog sled tours in Alaska.
Right.
That's what they wanted to do.
Right.
So you are very fortunate in that you did accomplish all of your goals.
Yeah.
Whether
All but
they
that last
ended,
one.
oh, almost. So
Almost.
let's turn a corner and kind of talk about your daughters. Both of your daughters died of the same disease at a very young age. So can you share a little bit about how that had impacted your life?
Well, currently, our 28-year-old daughter is actually second in we had 4 girls, and so we currently have Claire, who's 28. She was the second born, and then Jane, who was the last born. She's 22, and then the oldest daughter that we had back in North Dakota when we were coaching North Dakota, Meredith, would be 31, and Natalie would be 25. So we lost Meredith and Natalie. As best we know, because the experts still don't know, but as best we know, that there were flu-like symptoms that both of them contracted, and slowly they got to where they completely lost really most of their affect and most of their facial expressions, and became really, really lethargic, and not knowing the first time what it was in 1992. My wife, I was at basketball practice at Miami of Ohio, and my wife rushed our oldest Meredith to the hospital, and she had passed before I got a chance to get up the hill and get to the hospital. It was tough. When you lose your child but don't have a chance to save them, I just think that's so cruel. I've got some questions that I'm not trying to answer now, but at some point I need some answers. But we're not alone in this, because adversity touches us all. The same thing happened then in 92. In 98, 6 years later with Natalie, and I happened to be home on that day, and I looked at her in the middle of the afternoon, and I knew she didn't look right, and I immediately fear not struck me down, and I'm like, 911, here we go again. And we ended up in Iowa City, and they just couldn't bring her back. They just couldn't save her. Our current oldest, who's, like I said, our second in the line of 4, is really, really lucky to be with us. When we lived in Orlando, she spent 2 really difficult bouts at Arnold Palmer Hospital, Children's Hospital, and we feel very lucky to have her. I very honestly thought we lost her one time. So we have a third. That would have been, a 3 out of our 4, and our youngest, Jane, never has presented with anything with this disease. It's crazy. And you ask the experts, and they don't really. It's crazy. I mean, I'm just like, you got to be able to tell us. We got to be able to know. We got to be able to react. We have to be prudent parents. We can't continue for this to happen, and they can't tell you. And if they don't know, they don't know.
Yeah.
So,
and what's the name of the disease that they passed from?
As we best know, it goes by familial rhabdomyolysis, but eventually their major organs are going to shut down, and at that point, there's nothing we can do, and that's what happened in both cases. Okay. How did it impact me? I've been full circle on this, because it began with not having any answers, being really, really angry, being unbelievably angry with God, even angry with doctors. Myself, I was angry. The impact, you just can't escape it. When you lose a child, you can't escape it. It lives with you. It just haunts you 24/7. Time is a healer. Time doesn't replace. But the impact for me, let me explain this. It's kind of twofold. When I say it ran its course and it went in a circle, I got to where I understood that I was never going to know why, because I was not created to know why. Those events and those answers are way, way, way bigger than me. But I knew there would be a time where I would be able to find out those answers. And when I finally got to that place, tremendous, tremendous comfort came over me. And I don't think about it anymore, and I don't ask why anymore. The anger dissipated, and I've spent a ton of time learning how to accept the things that happen in this life, good, bad, or indifferent. Acceptance is it's a principle of AA, of which I've spent time in. But anybody, I would encourage anybody to go find AA's definition of acceptance, and it's phenomenal. And it'll actually make you start laughing at yourself when you start to think about how crazy we act sometimes when things don't go our way. And that definition really, really helped me a lot. So we're talking about being surrounded by faith, my friends, my family, my pastor. And this has been, Michelle, a long haul. It's been a long haul. And I think they're meant to be long hauls. There's no quick fixes. So that would be the first part. I think the second part would be just being able to get to the point where I could actually write about it. I mean, depression is a nasty, nasty disease. I hate to even try to go there, because the word on its own, people use it a lot about, well, I really feel depressed today. It's one of those words that, it's a clinical word, and it has a clinical definition, and it's a disease. And it is really, really difficult. I found myself in the middle of snowbanks in the middle of the winter I guess I went out to walk and ended up laying there, to you name it, every kind of really activity and thought that you can imagine, from just being totally, really paralyzed physically for what's going on up in your mind. I went from that place to a place where, when we met, I could actually write this book. So it impacted me tremendously, but I got to the point where I knew it was going to be okay. Even though we don't have two of our girls with us, I know it's going to be okay. Hope is a tremendous thing. And so the impact, of course, is something we could talk about for a long, long time. And I'm going to talk in a bit, so I'm going to let this go, because I'm going to talk in a bit about just what it can give you the opportunity to do and take you to places where you don't want to be.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And there was to self-medicate, you fell victim to, and I don't know if that's the right word, fell victim to an addiction that led to federal prison. So,
right.
Like the day that you walked into that federal prison, knowing you were going to stay 2 years, never having set foot in the prison before, that's not your life. What was that like? And what, led up to that, as much as you feel like sharing or as little as you feel like sharing?
Sat on a wooden bench when we got there, and we walked inside this facility and sat down, and immediately I didn't feel welcome. Just the way you're treated. And it's part of the deal. I learned later. But I'm like, man, this guy's having a bad day. I mean, I can't believe he's that short with me, you know? So I drove out with my dad and my brother Roger. And I'll tell you what, I couldn't have got out there any other way. My stomach was churning, and I just was tight, and my mind is running. But to go out there with my dad, and he drove, and my younger brother, was a real gift. We got there, we sat down on this wooden bench. We really didn't say much. I had my Bible with me, and we just really didn't say much. But I remember when they called my last name, and I looked at my dad, and I mean, just the pain on his face was just so cutting. And I just really got emotional and hugged my brother and hugged my dad. And then I remember they left, and it was like being at school holding your sack lunch, and you're waiting for a ride, and your ride shows up, and they walk right by you and they leave and they go. I'm like, where'd my ride go? Where'd they go? They left me. And then it started. And fear, the unknown, it had an immediate physical manifestation to me. I just, all I wanted to do is vomit. I just wanted to throw up so bad. And for 3 days I couldn't. There was just nothing there. And of course I wasn't eating either. But it's amazing what fear can do to you physically. But I'll tell you, I just shut up as I was told. I just didn't say anything. I stood straight as I could, and I kept my eyesight straight ahead and just waited for the next direction. I think the thing that maybe hurt me the most is after my folks left, or my dad left and my brother left, and this guy motions me over, and they put me in a holding cell, and then they say, "Come on, let's go." And they looked, and they just grabbed my Bible. They just grabbed it. And I said, "Wait a minute." I go, "I need that." And then, of course, they don't really explain anything. And they just one guy gave it to another guy and never saw it again. And I thought, wow, is this the way we play around here? Because I mean, I thought it was still, I thought the Bible was kind of important to have in this little 2-year experience of mine. And all of a sudden they took that, and I'm like, man, how do you do that? Is that even legal? Here I go asking why again. But we walked up, and the guy asked me what unit I was in. I thought that was funny. You can never answer him the way you want to. I said, "Sir, I don't know." He goes, "I think it's this one right here." Walked me in there, and off we go. It was frightening, but all you can do is buck it up.
Did those 2 years seem like 5 years? Or did it go by fast?
It didn't go by fast. No, it did not last 2 years. I told my brother when we were driving, I go, "Raj, it's nothing." I go, we have a junior college in our hometown of Fort Dodge, Iowa, called Iowa Central Community College. I go, "We both went to Iowa Central. It'd just be like if they put a fence around Iowa Central and we just went for 2 years and then they let us out." He looked at me like, "Okay, if you're going to buy that, that's good." And whatever. But man, no, it lasted longer than 2 years. There were some nights and some days I didn't think it was ever going to end. And they called me short timer because 2 years is nothing,
That's right.
But
how did you feel the day you got released? How did that feel?
Pretty anticlimactic. to be honest with you. Yeah, there really wasn't anything to it. You know they're going to call you. We had a thing the night before, which they typically have if guys want to get involved and to bid me, sweet goodbye. And the guys that were in that unit I lived in, and they pretty much just call your name and you walk down and they do a couple things. And my buddy was waiting for me. I've known this guy since grade school. Bart is his name. And he moved to Carolina about 15, 16, 17 years ago. It was within 40 minutes of where I was. So we started in a little town in northwest Iowa, and we ended up 40 minutes from each other. He visited me 33 times in 2 years. And he was the one that was there to pick me up. Man, I hugged him and I was like, let's get in the car and go, man, before they change their mind, because I want to get out of here. So that's just one of those gifts that I can't explain how that happened. He and his wife moved to Winston-Salem, and crazy.
Yeah. Now, one good thing happened, at least in prison, is that you wrote your book, correct?
I did.
On a typewriter.
I wrote a lot.
300 pages?
I have 350 typewritten pages, and not all of it made the book. Really, kind of a fraction did, but the idea was I wanted to. When I wrote, I was writing just about my life. I guess I just wanted to kind of get it down, because I originally, Michelle, before I began to talk to the people that really knew about how to write books and what they were all about, I thought that the book was about what I had done in my life, and it sort of was, but it really wasn't. Someone asked me, it wasn't you, although you kind of led me to this point, but someone asked me when I got back with all this manuscript that, well, actually my wife had it. I wouldn't trust it inside that place. So I piecemeal sent it out so that it would actually be safe outside of the wire. But and someone asked me, said, why do you want to write a book like that? And I thought, well, come on, silly. And I'd never been asked that question. It's a great question. And I thought, well, And they said, what do you want people to leave with after they read it? Just another story about a coach, or what do you want? And then that changed everything in the way I took the information that I had written when I was in prison and fashioned it into a book that actually had, a real, just anchors of truth that could be reflected in the experiences that I had. And so I got to the point where I said, I want people to understand, because we all deal with adversity and tragedy in this life, all of us. I want people to understand that it's not a pretty walk through positive, and every adversity has a great positive super ending, and just go to the bookstore and you'll see all these great titles. It can go one of two ways, and it's totally up to you as to which way you want it to go. And in this book, you're going to read, if you choose to run, if you choose comfort, if you choose not facing reality and not being vulnerable, you are asking for it. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 5 years, somewhere. And it might be just anger. Look, where'd that anger come from? It's amazing how many ways it can be manifested. If we don't handle adversity, and if we don't grieve, not in the right way, but grieve your way. I don't think there is a right way. Grieve your way. If we don't do that, it's going to run us down. It'll absolutely run us down. And the end of it's not going to be good. It's not going to be a good ending for us. So that's really what I wanted people to understand, that it's not an automatic great thing when we face adversity. People always say, well, great things come out of adversity. Yeah, they do. You can also get involved in things that take you, places like prison, and that's not a very positive read to me, on the bookshelf. And you don't see those books. So I thought it was just a good way to explain that, hey, beware. You got to go about this the right way.
Yes, and you have, and I had it bookmarked, and I don't know if I can find it. You have in your book, let me see if I can find it real quick here. Let's see. Yeah, how do you measure up? 15 skills to master. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really good. How do you position yourself to handle a quick-hitting tragedy best? Here are 15 preventative efforts that can save you much heartache down the road.
Yes.
And that's where the teaching point is that the book is not just about your story. No. Your story is woven in, and your love for music, which I have not asked you about.
Oh boy.
But you have a definite love for music, but it's not just about that. It's about how you rebounded. I mean, rebound forward, rebounding from life's most devastating losses and stay in the game. You're an example of that. What was the turning point for you in the rebound process? Was there a specific turning point, or was it a series of small decisions?
The turning point came when I was in prison. And I'll tell you why. Because, and I didn't know it at the time. When I walked in there, I had no idea what I was walking into. Okay. I was, pornography is the reason that I went to prison, because I had got myself involved with some pornography online that was illegal, and it was became a federal case. So they told me that I could actually, in this facility they sent me to, they had a treatment program. First thing I said was, that's ridiculous. I ain't going in with all those guys to do treatment. No, not those guys, right? And I learned quickly that I was those guys. And I'll keep this part brief, but within this compound of 850 inmates was a program. And it was absolutely what I needed. And it was done masterfully, Michelle. They were world-class doctors and treatment specialists. And they, without raising a voice or raising a hand, could question and challenge you beyond belief. And I mean, myself and all kinds of other guys I saw just wrapped up in a ball, crying so hard it wasn't even making a noise after a while. And the way they did this was, basically to get you to think about what you did, why you did it, and what gave you the right to think that you were entitled to do that. And to go from, well, I just got screwed by the law. I like what they did is they, I remember I wrote down in my notebook one night, leave your crutches at the door. And that's what it was. You have no more crutches. There are none. Okay. You did what you did, and you had to explain, if you were open to it, they could absolutely change your life and change the way that you thought. I bought into it. Although it took me 6 months, I was a hard head. And at 6 months, I bought into it because I started to see what they were doing. Now, this didn't explain everything about the redemption piece and about how I was able to come back and rebound forward. But had I not been, I'll always say this, Had I not been so fortunate that the judge that sentenced me sent me to Butner, North Carolina, because he knew this program was there, and there were only 3 in the country at the time. Now, there's another gift, right? Had I not been sent out there, I have to think that I would have been in general population. I would have gone 635 days of survival and just to try to do my time and get out of there. And I probably would have came out of there just absolutely entitled, angry, and who knows what would have laid in front of me. So this is one of these things I cannot explain. And it made all the difference in the world to me, because they got me turned around completely in my mind, thinking about the empathy that I should have for victims. And I didn't have any hands-on victims. Mine, the chat room was where I ended up going. And I didn't have victims, I didn't think, at least no hands-on victims. And they said, you're absolutely wrong about that. You better learn and know that you did have victims. And just that whole piece of knowing that you knew what you did, but you better learn why there's absolutely no place for that. You had absolutely no reason to think that you were, beyond, your rights to be able to do those things. That was absolutely, without that, Michelle, I'm not sure. I most certainly know I wouldn't be a guest on your program right now today. I do know that for sure. So I don't know if I answered your question, but it's really, prison saved my life, maybe. I don't know. I told a guy that one time, and he said, "What?" I go, "You've been watching too much TV. Come on. It's not too much TV." But it did. It turned my life around, without a question. So that when I left there, I could leave thinking the way I needed to be thinking. And I did. And that was, whew.
Wow. No, how
unbelievable.
How rampant is pornography addiction in the church? And because, I've talked to, a couple different people that, men that have struggled with that, but nobody talks about it, of course. And so have you been able to, how rampant is it in the church? And have you been able to talk to men, in the church environment to help them based on what you've been through?
I have been able to speak to men in the church environment and outside the church environment. There is magic that goes on when you know that men are in a safe place and the doors are closed and they don't even necessarily have to speak, but I can speak the truth. And I'll tell you what, I can see by the look on their eye if they're involved right along with me. I can tell. It's amazing what happens. Now, the thing about the church, I say this, okay, are there a lot of people in the church that access pornography and a lot of them probably addicted? Well, as long as human beings keep going to churches, that's always going to be the case. Okay. And pastors included, males included, females included. Yes, absolutely. Because what pornography allows us, it allows us to become anonymous. And unfortunately, pornography is available. I call it the 3 A's. It's available, easily available. It's acceptable in our world. It's almost got completely acceptable. And 3, and the most powerful part, is the anonymity of it. If you had to go out in the street corner and identify yourself, and then become involved in pornography, then there'd be nobody out there. But if you can do it in your basement with all the lights off and have there be no so-called no ramifications or nobody know that it's you, then that's another deal. So it's scary. The numbers are scary.
Okay.
They're absolutely frightening.
Yeah, and there's a video that I actually bought just because I saw the preview and I thought, oh man, it's just so powerful. I didn't really even know what it was about, but it was called The Heart of Man. And it's a docudrama. It's a retelling of the story of the prodigal son. And but yet it's an interview style to where they're interviewing, men and then one woman who have struggled with that. And it's really, really powerful. Mm-hmm. So I know there's tools out there, but that's from your experience. That's a gift that you can give to other men. Yeah. To like you see that, like you said, in their eye, you tell in a moment, maybe like a drug addict can tell another like they're on drugs.
I can tell in a second. Mm-hmm. And then when 6, 7, 8, 10 men come up and want to visit with me afterwards, and 6 of them are crying, they're waiting their turn to get a chance to. And it touches me. It touches me. And so, I've spoke at universities to students. I've done as much speaking as possible. Here's something I want to make sure I interject this. Here's something I'd love to be able to tell everybody. I don't think we should run around and look for other people that are hurting. Okay. You don't have to, because I think you can tell if you're astute. And if you just be quiet for a second and ask questions rather than talk, the best way, if you think that you've got somebody that's a friend of yours, whether it's just kind of a little bit of a friend or a great, great friend, a lifelong friend, the best way to get anything out of them is to do this. And this works. And this is magic. Sit them down, ask them for coffee, and sit down and say, hey, I just wanted to visit with you. I know some things I've been through. I just want to talk a little bit about how I got involved in those things and really the pain that it's caused my family and myself. And don't say, I wanted to have coffee because I sense you got something bad going on in your life. What's up with your marriage? Or, hey, what you don't look like your normal self. That's the best way to put the fence up, right? I'm vulnerable first to my friend. Okay. Now they don't have to say anything, but more often than not, and I mean a high percentage of the time, I start to see it, and they can't wait. And sometimes when they start, then the floodgates come, and it's like they're telling me something that they've not told anyone in their life. But it's only because I've been vulnerable first and been very forthcoming to say what I did and what it caused and exactly what I was doing. And they turn around and they're vulnerable to me. Man, you talk about changing a life over a cup of coffee. And anybody can do that, Michelle. You don't have to have written a book or be an expert in this field or that field or whatever. Anybody can do that. And it works. It's crazy. And I think we just all have a sense that certain people are being bothered by something in their life. And well, what a great way to get it out and put them back on the right path.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, I just wanted to, if somebody, and I'm going to hold the book up again. There you go. If somebody has their book in their hand, what do you think are the 3 takeaways they can really sink their teeth into from start to finish? And 3 is, I know this book, so I know there's way more than 3. But if you could narrow it down to 3 gold nuggets, what would you say?
Number 1, no one on this earth has ever been exempt from pain, tragedy, or adversity. Okay, we know that. Okay, and you can't say that. Well, a lot of people have had it rougher than me. We haven't really had any huge things happen, so I'm okay. When someone says I'm okay, they're not okay. So first of all, we're all in the same boat. Okay, and that's really clearly comes across in the book. Number 2 is you have a choice. You have a choice as to how you're going to deal with the pain. If you're an adult and you have children in your family, they're watching you every single second to see how you respond, not react. And I make a big point of that in my book, how you respond to, and it could be, I just lost my mom about 2 weeks ago, two weeks ago.
So sorry.
And your kids watch as to how you grieve. Your kids watch as to how you go through something like this. All the misfortunate things that happen in life, your kids are watching. And so you always have a choice. There's the right choice, and there's not the right way to grieve. Like I said before, there's the right way to grieve for you, and then there's the wrong way to go about it. The wrong way to go about it is to say, this is unfair. This shouldn't have happened to me. There's a lot of pain in my life, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to feel better. Okay. Now that could be 1,000 things. You could become a shopaholic on the internet. Okay. You could, could be food, it could be gambling, could be pornography, alcohol, drugs. I mean, you name it, right? That's the path where you're going to do nothing but end up trying to run from your problems. And that's not going to work. So I want people to understand that you do have a choice. I don't think people understand they have a choice. I think they feel like they're supposed to feel bad the rest of their life because something happened, and you don't have to. But you certainly, if you're going to chase comfort, you're going to be caught every time. When I speak about this, Michelle, I bring a sign out and it says, "Are you?" And then and then there's like a blank, and then it's N, and I have a letter underneath that. And I say, if you choose to run, the chances are you're going to end in, and I take the clear label off, and it's capital I. You're going to end in ruin. You run, it'll end in ruin. And so, second thing in the book would be the fact that everybody's got a choice. There's a right and wrong way. And then 3 is there's always hope. There's always hope. People give up. And I think in our world today, people give up much too early and too easily. I can't think of anything that there's nothing that would absolutely take hope and hide it and make it unavailable, because we all have hope. I mean, like I said, I just went through 2 pretty difficult things. My mother passing, and then about 10 days later, Coach Olson, my mentor, passed. And so it's been a tough couple of weeks, but I had tremendous hope in all of it, because I just know that I'm going to see my mom, I'm going to see my father, I'm going to see my 2 kids who have gone before us. If we lose hope, it's a tough deal. And if we lose hope, I'll promise you, most of the time, Michelle, it's because we're trying to do life on our own. Life is not meant to be done on our own. And if you go to someone and explain how bad you hurt, you'll end up having hope. And it could be the greatest change and the greatest gift somebody ever gave you. But I think those 3 things, for sure, those are 3 anchors that I know people will have to be challenged with in the book.
Oh, yes. And like I said, there's so much more than those, but those are really good. Now, speak to the person who might be watching this right now, who has been through some devastating losses. Where and when does personal reconciliation and rebuilding come from? And I think you just touched on that, but you have something to add to that.
I have, but I'll give a real quick answer. I think that'll cover it. Everything good that's going to come from adversity starts with you sharing what it is that you've been through that's hurting you so bad. We are not designed to take on this kind of pressure and pain. And we can't. I mean, because none of it makes sense to us. So if we would just be vulnerable with one person, if we would just ask a pastor or someone at the church, if we would just ask a great friend, hey, could you come over to the house and could I talk to you about some stuff? Because, Michelle, if we don't start there, I'm afraid it's just not going to end up good. So that's where all the redemption and the pain's not going to go away. You know, I still have scars from when I was a kid, right? Okay, we all kind of have that. Well, you know, I have scars from my kids dying too, and yeah, they're going to heal a little bit, but they're still sore to the touch, and they're always going to be there. But starting with sharing with one person is absolutely, I'd say, the best thing any of us could do.
Yeah, well, for sure. And, you know, okay, yeah, that is. These are such gold nuggets that you're sharing with people. I think that there are really a lot of takeaways for that. So, okay, so how do you handle people that still want to judge you for what you've been through? Your specific addiction. Like they won't judge alcoholics or they won't judge drug addicts, but they'll judge you. How do you handle those people? Have you had those people that have come up to you and say, you know, how do you handle the naysayers? Because we all have them.
I'm so much better now at it than I used to be. I thought no matter where I was, everyone was looking and talking about me. I've come to believe this and know this for sure, that if I pick up the paper and I read about someone who's done something that has taken them into prison or into state prison, federal prison, whatever, thought now is, okay, I just read about what they did. Okay. And I know that the whole of us, is not what we have done, but who we are. And there's books written about, you know, actually, what does that mean, who we are? You know, the wholeness of us, who we are. And I know that people cannot be defined by what they've done. All right, good and bad.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then and I really believe this helped me eliminate all the people who had a judgment and a thought about what kind of person I was. I think the only people that are qualified to judge, and not saying that we should all judge if we're qualified to judge. I think there's one superior judge, and on Judgment Day, we're going to learn how we've done, you know, with the Lord, and like it or not. So, but that we know that's coming, right? That's our one judge. But I'm not qualified, Michelle, to judge anyone unless I know them deeply. How can I judge someone I don't know? That's ludicrous. How can I do that? And I've learned that. That's been part of my learning curve with all of this. Now, before, I would have been a really quick trigger to say, oh, that guy's a scumbag. That'll put him in prison and keep him in there forever. And I hear that stuff. And that's fine. And you know, I've told people, I've said, hey, you're entitled to your opinion, but you know, there's one thing I know for sure, and that's that you don't know me, just as I don't know you. And it kind of puts people back, sets them back a little bit. But I think I don't have to worry about those people. They don't know me. If they knew me really well, they can come and one-on-one judge me all they want. And I've had good, lifelong friends challenge me and talk to me very, very seriously about it before and after. And that's what I need. And that's, man, is that valuable? But the rest of them, nah, they don't know. I'm just a newspaper clipping to them. That big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
And I love what you said about what we do, what we have done does not define us, because we
no,
all have past of things that we've done that we don't like, that we're ashamed of or whatever, but that does not define us today, because we evolve as people, we grow, we develop, we, the personal development. So who I was 5 years ago is not who I am now. 10, 20 years ago, totally not who I am now.
no
And
question.
same thing. Yeah.
I tell you who I think of often is Paul. Um, he's a great study for someone who has been, who was forgiven, and then was to the point where they followed him, versus wanted to stone him because he killed so many Christians. I mean, think of his story, and he wasn't judged by what he did. Now he had to earn his stripes, but I'm always reminded of Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. And, before I ask you what you've been doing since you wrote your book, I know that you want to talk about a little bit about your music interest. You have a huge music interest. And, as I was reading, I'm an R&B girl. So I didn't know a lot about the people you mentioned. I know their names, but I never listened to their music. So just tell people a fun part about what you've been able to experience, who you've met, because I know music is a huge part of your life.
When I sold my baseball cards, and it wasn't fashionable to be in your 40s and still have your baseball cards and still trade them. Music's the kind of thing you start with and you have it your whole life, and it's been a gift to me. In my darkest times, when I was really nonverbal with my wife and my family and siblings, I was so depressed that all I wanted to do basically is just sleep. I had to function somehow, and I found music. I found a shade of music that was so different, and it came alive to me because it was like a friend talking to me. And I was really into it then, but I'm telling you, there's something through what I've been where music really came alive to me. And so I love listening to it. I love collecting it. I love the history of music. I am a huge advocate of live music because we're sitting in a bad place right now in this country that we may have live music taken away from us because venues can't make it without artists being in there, and artists may not make it either. So this is a really tough time for music. But we'll make it through. I'll tell you how much I like it, Michelle. I found a way to get hired as a stagehand 8 years ago. First show I worked was Leonard Skinner. Here I am. I mean, I'm just a fan up there, and I'm trying to look the part, but man, and I'm just kind of learning as I go. But I've been a stagehand for the last 8 years, and I've been on stage, helped build stages and tear down stages for some of the the greatest artists in music, and that's been tremendous. I love the words. I love I've really started to get into the story of the artists who create the words, and sort of reverse engineer it and say, okay, tell me about your life. And I'm at so much live music that I've probably, there's about a dozen artists or bands that I know and see them frequently and know them personally, which is really cool.
Who? To name a few examples.
Well, Chris Duarte from Austin, Texas is one of my favorites. I've seen Chris about 50 times. He's a dear friend. He's a brother. He read the book while he was on tour, and he just, man, you just have him explain what he read was crazy good. So there's quite a few of them. What I like to do is find bands that aren't big yet, and sort of identify them, and then follow them through. And sometimes they get too big for me, and then I kind of get mad, like, come on, you were supposed to be this club band. That's when I really fell in love with you. But I have to talk about my friend Kenny Ernoff. I met Kenny at a non-music event. Kenny his music has appeared on 330 million records, a third of a billion records. Okay. He was with John Cougar Mellencamp. That's how he got his big break. He just recently has played with John Fogerty. He's played with, you name it. He's played with him from Johnny Cash all the way through. He's a tremendous session player also. And so I've got to know Kenny, and he's just so kind, and he'll give me an opportunity to go backstage at shows and different things like that. It's just a blast. But he is a really cool guy, really normal dude, and just loves music, and he likes basketball a little bit too. But so yeah, I like it, but it was neat when I realized that it had such an impact on my life, and it wasn't just something you could put in the car to go down the road. So it's had a tremendous effect on my life.
Yeah, and I think certain songs carry us through certain seasons.
No
I
question.
know that has definitely been the case and I listen to a lot of gospel. So certain songs, Tasha Cobb is one of them, and just she sings the song "Gracefully Broken," and it just certain songs will carry you through certain seasons. You listen to that song a million times, it resonates during that season, but you never forget it because that song. It might be 10 years past, but that song is attached to that season in your life. So I think it has a definite powerful impact in our lives for sure.
I have 2 guitars, and I am taking lessons. So watch it, world.
Uh-oh.
I'm starting at 63, but I got a chance.
Hey, you go for it. That's right. I love that. So what have you been doing since you wrote your book? What are you doing these days?
I'm heavily involved in the game of basketball. I told myself I eliminated myself from the profession. Basically, when I went to prison, because of a lot of constraints, when I came back, I'm not a person who's able to be hired to coach. And I thought, I'm going to take everything I know about basketball, and I'm going to do my darndest to figure out how I can get this back to those who need it. I want to get back to a profession that allow me to do all the great things that I always wanted to do from a youngster. And so I created a mentoring program, which I've been doing for the last 14 years. And we've had 130 coaches become NCAA coaches through my program. I have eight young guys who are in the NBA that came through our program, and has been a tremendous source of fulfillment and excitement to me when they end up learning from me and then getting their own opportunity to coach. I'm on the floor a couple times a week, which I love. It's great because I love to teach the game. So I'm constantly doing things like that. I have a podcast. I have a website. I work with the Iowa Basketball Coaches Association here in our state of Iowa. Many, many, many things. Anything having to do with basketball, if I can help the profession and help our coaches, then I'm going to do it. I'm just really, really passionate about that. And so I would say that primarily, Michelle. I know 2 more books in me, and they're fighting with each other. That's why I can't get one started, because they're both fighting with each other. So I know that's coming down the road, but I love my music. I love my, my 2 girls. Unfortunately, I was divorced 4 years ago. And so I'm living single now, and that's really interesting, but it's been good. It's had some good things come with it too. And there's a pill of humility too that comes with it. And I'm always learning. We're never done learning. We're never done trying to make the best version of ourselves. And I'm trying to do that. But yeah, basketball is a huge part of my life and always will be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is interesting being and I'll say older because we're the same age, an older single in today's climate. But the good thing I find is that my time is my own, and I
Yes.
can dedicate my time to
Yeah.
spending time with God's,
Yes.
working on my business, working on, personal development. So there's a lot of advantages
There
to
is
it
an
that I
upside.
am,
Yep.
finding. So yeah, definitely. So how can people reach you? How can they buy your book?
Well, I came up with the trickiest domain for my website. How about this? It's called randybrown.coach. As soon as the coach extension came in, I had to grab it. So it's my name dot COACH, randybrown.coach. And my book, Rebound Forward, is there. You can purchase it there. You can go to Amazon and purchase it through Amazon. My only ask is this, and I tell people constantly, please read it, buy it, read it, but then please, if you go to a great restaurant, what do? You tell all your friends about a great restaurant you've been to. Take this book, please, and give it to someone who you think may really gain something from it. I hope, somebody said, "No, you got to sell books. I said, "No, I got to pass books on. I don't care about selling books. I want the ones that get out there to be passed on. I don't care if 50 different people read them. I don't need to sell 50 books. I need to sell one book that 50 people read." And I really, really mean that. And so if you do get a hold of it, pass it on for sure. And it's been a tremendous adventure. And believe me, I've learned a lot, as you know, in this process.
Oh, we all do.
I'm going to do some things differently the next time, which will help my stress level. But I'm really excited to write again. Yeah,
I'm excited about that too. Yes. And I do that with every book that I help with, is that I learn something new.
Sure.
And I learn to like, okay, do this next time to like you said, reduce your stress level.
Right.
Because
Jeez.
It ain't for the faint-hearted, is it?
It's not.
Especially that marketing part, trying to get it out there. It's
you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. So any final comments you want to make?
Yeah. I mean, listen, this life is what we decide we're going to make of it. I know that's really, that sounds pretty elementary, but it's not that difficult. It really isn't. People complain about the most stupid things, the most crazy. I mean, it's like, I say, I love doing this. If somebody says, "Oh, looks like it's going to rain all day again today." And I say, above those clouds, it is unbelievable. The sun's shining. Since when did rain mean that we had to just absolutely chuck the day and make it the worst experience in life? We don't. I mean, we got a choice in everything we do. What we wear, the way we speak, the way we think, the way we treat other people. Man, it's there's so much to grab out there, and there's so much to learn, and but we got to share it. It's not really about us. It's about sharing them with other people. And so it's been a blessing to get to know you in the short period that we've known each other. And it's a blast just to be on here talking to you. We can talk forever, as we've shown in the past, but I hope there's something in there that people can take and say, he's right. He's right. Hope. Nobody can take hope from you. They can't.
That's
you
right.
Just hang on to it. Nobody is strong enough to take hope from you. And man, you can change a life right there.
Absolutely. You are so right. And, I really want to thank you for taking your time today and just sharing all your golden nuggets of wisdom. And I know that people are really helped by what you had to share. And maybe you prevented somebody from going down a path that they were starting or in midstream going down. And don't do it. So, you've just, and some people have just really had a lot of loss in their life. So I think what you shared really helps those who have devastating losses, and they can rebound. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what stage in life you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have.
No.
You can rebound forward and stay in the game. Stay in the game. Yeah.
Stay in the game.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, well, I thank you for watching another episode of Winning Proof and Winning Proof Unscripted. It's actually, I do have the questions written, so it kind of is scripted, but it's not scripted because other questions come as I hear the answers, and my goal is to just do a dialogue. So, everybody, you can reach Winning Proof at winningproof.com. or at winningproof@gmail.com. So you can reach me either place. And Randy, thank you so much. What a delight to talk to you. What a pleasure.
Thanks, Michelle. Always great to talk with you. Thanks for having me on your great program.
All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.